What the hell is that?
This ain't the end of me, all the things that I could be. This is the end of you, after all that we've been through.
Hello everybody, this is WarriorDan. Welcome back to another episode of What is the Point Of? The game review series where we attempt to critique individual games of note and break them down and analyze the many components that make the game worth discussing before delivering a final opinion. Today, as you can tell by the thumbnail and accompanying title, we're discussing Overkills The Walking Dead. When you consider the idea of Overkill Software, the development studio who has spent the better part of a decade making their name synonymous with the co-op horde mode shooter genre, initially with Payday the Heist and its arguably more successful and more famous successor, Payday 2, and since doing so establishing one of the best reputations in the industry for their commitment towards long-term support of their games, and their receptivity to community feedback. Getting the go-ahead to develop a new Walking Dead game, one built from the ground up as an action co-op shooter for many Walking Dead fans and action game fans as a whole, was a match made in heaven. While Telltale had a good run with their own company-branded Telltale's The Walking Dead interactive adventure series, The Walking Dead has never really fared well in the action department. Adult video game players like myself remember the last generation PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 title, The Walking Dead Survival Instinct, which released in a truly abysmal state.
So I suppose the major concern with this game is the fact that every element of it just seems incredibly rushed. It's really quite lazy in many ways. And from the graphical fidelity, the poor optimization, the boring melee combat, it leads to the conclusion that this was a game that was shoveled out as quickly as possible in order to try and just capitalize on the success of The Walking Dead.
It's really funny to me that in a way, 5 years later, I find myself almost verbatim reiterating John Bain's initial assessment of Survival Instinct, but this time within the context of Overkill's The Walking Dead. Keep in mind that all the footage you're seeing on screen now is from the most recent build, well, depending on when exactly this video comes out, one of the most recent builds. So this is roughly almost 4 months since the game's initial release. Now I should probably throw up a quick disclaimer here. I am not a Walking Dead fan. I find the show itself tedious and melodramatic to the extreme. Oftentimes it does feel like I'm just watching an afternoon Spanish soap opera, except with zombies in it. I respect the show, I've got nothing against it, I'm just not its core demographic, and that's fine. So for all intents and purposes, here in this review, I'm just criticizing the game from the perspective of a gamer, not through the lens of a dedicated show fan. I like horror games, I like zombie games, and I usually like co-op shooter games. Payday 2 was, and still is, one of my favorite co-op shooters of all time, and because of the frequent strong similarities between it and Overkill's The Walking Dead, I will have to occasionally compare and contrast between the two, but I'll try to keep that to a minimum where possible. So when you boot up the game, you get this extremely long and fairly well animated cutscene, which tonally strikes me as notably similar to the story cutscenes prominent in Left 4 Dead 2. 4 survivors, 1 objective, lots of zombies in the way, go. Then the game starts and you find yourself in a tutorial level where your task is to hold the line and stop the hordes of zombies from breaching your fort's defenses. As your chosen survivor, you will have a unique weapon loadout, usually including specific primary and melee weapons befitting your role, in addition to a standard secondary pistol. Additionally, you will also learn to craft class-specific supplies and gadgets, the efficiency of which can later be upgraded via the game's simplistic skill tree system. As far as tutorials go, this one isn't particularly bad. The game does a decent job of introducing you, the player, to the otherwise fairly overwhelming and intricate mechanics such as fortifying key areas, crafting health packs and other equipment, finding ammo resupply areas, and luring zombies into traps by using noise, etc. That said, the game does throw a completely ridiculous number of zombies at you. Even if you go out of your way to keep the borders of your base completely fortified to prevent zombies from breaking through, inevitably one of the defenses will break, and in the time it takes you to rid yourself of the zombie infestation, one or both of the 2 other areas will break down and you'll be flooded with zombies. Combine this with the fact that the tutorial seems to be made specifically for single player, and one has to wonder how any of this nonsense made it past the quality assurance testing phase. But in case you were thinking this is the worst of it, oh no. No. We are just merely scratching the surface here. After completing the tutorial, you are brought back to the map screen and must travel to the very base you just played the tutorial on, but this time with no zombies and populated only by a small cast of static AI personalities who just stand diligently in the exact same spot, seemingly forever. Now, one of the things I really loved about Payday 2 was the extent of the flexibility of the AI players in your base. You had some characters walking around, everyone had dialogue, some of which was triggered by player interactions, while at other times they'd be content to talk on their own, and sometimes to one another. And overall, you got the sense that the game was trying to make some kind of discernible effort to maintain the pretense that these could be somewhat real people. Did some of their body animations make them look like the robotic animatronics from Disney's Epcot displays? Yes, totally. But at least there was effort made to make the player feel immersed in the environment. And at the time when Payday 2 came out in 2013, these limited animation flaws were fairly forgivable, as few developers had really started implementing this sort of in-game co-op social hub in FPS games. Both the idea and the technology levied to implement it were still fairly fresh and new. However, now in 2019, after years of open-world multiplayer games, building on this mechanic in ever-expanding ways, you can't really excuse the antiquated last-gen design choices seen here. Now, one excuse I've commonly heard floated about in various forums whenever I or other people criticize a game like this for featuring prominently bad game design is, well, gameplay doesn't really matter that much because you're playing with friends. I'm sorry, what? Does playing games with friends make certain games more fun than they would otherwise be in single player? Yes, absolutely. But simply having multiplayer functionality isn't enough to compensate for fundamentally bad game mechanics. Because in that case, you're not having fun because of anything the game has actually done. You're likely only enjoying the experience sardonically in tangent, mocking this dreadful miscarried abomination of a game, released to the public far too early into its development. When I play this game, I sincerely have to wonder what we could have gotten if this game was given another year of in-house development time. There is clearly some effort made here. Overkill probably wanted very much to make an authentic Walking Dead experience. The art direction and weapon designs do indicate that much, but with Starbreeze's systematic company-wide financial troubles, it strikes me as more than likely the company sped up this game's release window far more than it should have, and now we'll have to spend the next year or two attempting to mend this unfinished title via a long stream of post-launch patches. At the current time, however, Overkills The Walking Dead is a game as brain-dead and lifeless as the walking corpses that occupy it. I cannot in good consciousness recommend this game to anyone, especially since there are far better zombie co-op games that do this better. For example, those seeking a strong survival-based co-op zombie game might want to consider purchasing Dying Light Enhanced Edition. Granted, the game's a few years old, but for those who haven't played it yet, it is a pretty solid and enjoyable game when played in co-op. The single player is pretty solid too, so if you're playing with solo, you'll still have a decent amount of fun. Alternatively, for those who prefer zombie horde mode type games, Killing Floor 2 has been my personal favorite for years now since it came out. With consistently enjoyable new updates that introduce new maps, weapons, and other more minor improvements, the team has for years released a ton of DLC for the game entirely for free and has maintained a positive relationship with its community. There's nothing you'll find here in Overkills The Walking Dead that simply put can't be found in these games and implemented much better there. Maybe in another year or two of development and improvement, I might look more fondly upon this game, but in its current state, I'm not going to be holding my breath. On that note, I think that's where we're going to wrap it up for today. For those of you that might be interested in buying Overkills The Walking Dead for yourself, I don't know why you would, but if you were so inclined, or any other digital Steam games, I would highly recommend doing so on the Humble Store. I've used the Humble Store and often have bought its frequently changing promoted game bundles, and I'm happy to promote them as a sponsor of the channel. If you'd like to support this channel, you can do so by going to the Humble Store via this affiliate link, also available in the description down below, and purchasing any game or games on the site from there. It's a win-win. You get a game, and I get a couple nickels and dimes that'll save me a bit of money here or there. Also, if you want to talk to me directly, I am on Twitter at WarriorDanYT. I do regularly post on there, and it's usually the fastest means to reach me directly. Whenever there's a video delay or any kind of announcement, I always do it there. Thank you to those of you who've joined me by watching this video. If you want to see more content like this here in the future, I do recommend hitting that subscribe button down below, and if you like this video, please do give it a like and tell me what you think down in the comment section down below. I'll see you all again in a week or two with a new What is the Point of video. But for now, this is WarriorDan signing out. Stay awesome, everybody, and peace out.